Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary stories, tactics, and equipment of the special and specialized forces whose actions helped shape the outcome of World War II. I'm your host, Michael Wires, and as always, we're here to uncover the hidden stories behind the remarkable special units whose courage and innovation defined the battlefield. Today we continue in our series about Unternehmen Danzig, the German airborne assault against the 3 bridges of the Albert Canal and Fort Eben-Emael in May 1940. In the first episode, we examined the Belgian defenses themselves, the bridges at Veldwezelt, Vroonhoven, and Kana, and the fortress of Eben-Emael. We looked at their construction, armament, fields of fire, and the defensive logic behind the Albert Canal line. The second episode followed the attackers. It traced the creation and preparation of Sturmabteilung Koch, the specially formed assault force tasked with seizing the bridges intact and neutralizing the fortress. That episode focused on training, secrecy, new weapons, and the development of an entirely new method of attack. This episode shifts perspective once again. It is not about the fortress, and it is not about the assault troops who will land on it. It is about the men who must deliver them. Here we focus on the glider pilots. Civilian competition flyers, test pilots, instructors, and Luftwaffe aircrew are drawn together to form a unit that does not yet exist in doctrine or experience. They must learn to tow, navigate, and land assault gliders with extreme precision, often in darkness, often without knowing their objective. They train under false unit names, move between airfields in secrecy, and test techniques that have never been used in combat. This episode follows how that glider force is built specifically for Unternehmen Danzig, from early improvisation and internal tension, through experimental flights and rejected concepts, to the final procedures that will carry assault troops to the bridges of the Albert Canal and onto the roof of Fort Eben-Emael. By the end of this episode, the planning is finished. The gliders are ready, and the success of the entire operation now depends on whether this new and untested force can do what has never been done before. So, let's start at the beginning. In October 1939, the German Luftwaffe decides to create a dedicated transport unit for airborne operations in Belgium. Its task is to deliver Fallschirmjäger to objectives along the Albert Canal. The unit consists of glider pilots under the command of Oberleutnant Walter Kieß. For security reasons, it receives the cover name Propaganda-Ballonzug and is based at Hildesheim. From the outset, numerous practical problems remain unresolved. One of the most urgent concerns is the transport of assault troops by glider. Oberleutnant Kieß focuses on securing the best personnel and equipment, ensuring that technical difficulties do not delay the mission. In early November 1939 at Hildesheim, Kieß assembles many of Germany's most experienced glider pilots. The initial establishment is small. It includes 1 officer, 29 men, and 15 aircraft. These consist of 11 Ju-52 transport aircraft and 4 gliders. Immediate efforts focus on recalling former trainees from the first and second glider pilot courses. Most of these men had returned to their original units or civilian occupations after completing training. One example is Hans Hempel. After completing the second course, he returns to Kampfgeschwader General Weber and, in September 1939, is posted to the Stabsstaffel of Kampfgeschwader 3. Tracing these men proves difficult. At least 2 years have passed since their original training. Experience with the DFS 230 is especially valuable. In several cases, commanding officers refuse to release them, even temporarily, for service with Sturmabteilung Koch. To accelerate the formation of the unit, a decision is taken to recruit competition glider pilots. Both military and civilian pilots are accepted. Additional instructors with DFS 230 experience are also required, as many new pilots have never seen an assault glider before. Experienced instructors from the Deutsche Forschungsanstalt für Segelflug are summoned. Among them are Rudi Opitz, Heinz Schubert, and Ludwig Egner. They are ordered to report to Sturmabteilung Koch. Refusal is not an option. At Hildesheim, Opitz encounters around 20 former trainees. These include Bredenbeck, Bösebeck, Distelmeier, Flucke, Hempel, Kieß, Krusewitz, Lehmann, Noske, Oeltjen, Raschke, Schedalke, Scheithauer, Schweigmann, Staubach, Stern, Stoffel, Stur, Supper, and Wienberg. Many civilian pilots already hold prizes and distinctions. Several work as instructors at gliding schools. Among them is Otto Bräutigam, a former Olympic competitor. He sets a world gliding record and wins the Adolf Hitler Prize in 1939. Erwin Siller, another world record holder, wins the same prize that year. Other well-known pilots include Erwin Kraft, Wilhelm Fulda, and Heiner Lange. Because the operation may begin at any moment, training starts immediately. New pilots are introduced to the DFS 230 without delay. Veteran glider pilots from the experimental glider platoon provide instruction. Experienced pilots often fly the DFS 230 alone on their first sortie. Less experienced pilots are accompanied by veterans. Tow pilots are recruited in parallel. Most selected tow pilots are highly experienced and are born between 1912 and 1915. All complete advanced navigation training at a Flugzeugführerschule C and attend a Blindfliegerschule, where they receive further instruction in instrument flying and dead reckoning. After qualification, they rank among the Luftwaffe's most specialized aircrew. During that same month of November, the first dismantled DFS 230 transport gliders arrive at 2 airfields near Cologne. They are transported overland from Hildesheim in 3 columns using 60 lorries. The fuselages are carried in furniture vans, while the wings are transported separately on vehicles covered with tarpaulins. From November 4, 1939, systematic testing of the DFS 230 begins. Flights are conducted with heavy loads. Night flying and formation flying are practiced. Precision landings within 20 meters of a target are rehearsed repeatedly. Fallschirmjäger are trained to operate within the confined interior of the glider, where weapons and equipment must be stowed with absolute efficiency. After landing, glider pilots are expected to fight as infantry. They therefore receive training in ground combat and weapons handling, preparing them for immediate action upon landing. Despite this, Long periods pass without flying. November 1939 proves particularly inactive. When not flying, glider pilots remain confined to their barracks and must sign out whenever they leave. Tow pilots, glider pilots, and Fallschirmjäger are housed separately. Contact between groups is prohibited. Meals are taken at fixed times. Pilots are forbidden to sit with or speak to members of other groups. Relations between tow pilots and glider pilots remain strained. Hillebrand rarely flies with the same glider pilot twice. Opitz later recalls widespread dissatisfaction. The glider pilots are not told the purpose of their training. Some would rather fly other aircraft. Information is deliberately restricted. Training scenarios are drawn on sand tables. No objectives or locations are identified. Tow pilots, trained in instrument flying, remain distant. They expect long-range navigation missions and regard towing gliders as an unwelcome duty. Fallschirmjäger, meanwhile, prefer parachute descents to riding in fragile gliders made of wood, aluminium, and canvas. Tensions also arise between civilian glider pilots and military veterans. Civilian pilots are given low ranks, while many veterans hold senior, non-commissioned ranks. Military pilots lack experience in soaring flight. Civilian pilots bring skills acquired only through sport, gliding in unpredictable winds. On November 20th, 1939, Pilz conducts a 35-minute flight of unknown purpose, likely as part of Propaganda-Ballonzug trials. These tests examine several towing methods, including 3 gliders behind one aircraft and 2 gliders with tow cables of 80 and 120 meters. None proved suitable for mass takeoff operations. Doubts persist at senior levels. The General Staff questions whether Fort Eben Emael and the Albert Canal bridges can be captured from the air. The original plan relies on bombing and artillery fire, which is to cease shortly before glider landings. Civilian pilots such as Opitz, Egner, and Schubert judge this extremely dangerous. Poor timing could result in friendly fire. They discuss alternatives privately and favor a surprise night attack in formation. Kurt Student proposes this option on December 5, 1939. Several experimental flights are conducted at varying altitudes. On December 12, 1939, Heiner Lang flies at an altitude of 2,500 meters. Several pilots later claim that some flights reach 4,500 meters, where temperatures are reported at -8 degrees Celsius. These higher altitude claims cannot be independently confirmed. During Christmas leave, civilian pilots visit Dr. Jacobs, who oversees development of the DFS 230. They express concerns about daylight landings. Jacobs contacts Hannah Reich, the department's test pilot. She enjoys the confidence of Adolf Hitler and senior Luftwaffe officers, including Ernst Udet. The immediate recipients of her intervention remain unknown. After the holidays, orders require 1 civilian glider pilot to report to Ritter von Greim to investigate the complaint during a visit to Hildesheim. To conceal the identity of the original complainant, the pilots select Otto Bräutigam to present their case. He outlines an alternative approach. Hannah Reich later describes Bräutigam as confident, courageous, and humorous. She notes his bitterness at the treatment of glider pilots and emphasizes that these men are neither cowards nor undisciplined. They simply refuse to accept errors that risk lives purely because of rank. Reich supports their position indirectly. A practical test follows. A bridge and bunker near Hildesheim are selected. Bräutigam and Walter Kieß conduct the trial. Both are released at night several kilometers from the objective and navigate without assistance. Kieß misses his target by more than 1 kilometer. Bräutigam lands within a few meters. The test demonstrates that a night landing is feasible. In January 1940, glider pilots carry out further test flights over unfamiliar terrain. The purpose is to identify potential landing zones. Meadows marked with bright colors are used as reference points. Encouraged by the potential of the DFS 230, the Luftwaffe decides in January 1940 to establish a dedicated glider training school. The chosen location is Braunschweig-Waggum. The purpose is to train additional glider and tow pilots for future airborne operations. Command of the school is given to Arnold Willarding. Oberleutnant Walter Kieß loses 20 glider pilots. In addition, 8 Ju-52 crews and 6 flying instructors are transferred. In total, 2 officers, 41 non-commissioned officers, and 17 men leave the unit, causing significant disruption to Koch's planning. Operations begin on February 5, 1940. The initial establishment includes 8 Junker, 52 transport aircraft, 20 DFS, 230 gliders, and 6 instructors. For security reasons, Kieß's command is renamed at the end of January. It now carries the designation 17. Staffel, Kampfgeschwader zur besonderen Verwendung, 5. Major Rieps's detachment rejoins Sturmabteilung Koch and assumes responsibility for transporting and assembling the gliders. 3 lorry convoys are formed for this purpose, commanded by Oberleutnant Drossen. Rieps is also tasked with recovering the gliders after the operation, a measure intended to conceal their existence and use. The transfer encounters serious difficulties. Severe cold and ice force the second convoy to halt and turn back. Movement resumes 14 hours later. Despite these delays, Rieps and the gliders arrive in Cologne on schedule. At Köln-Ostheim, 19 gliders are assembled. At Köln-Butzweilerhof, 11 gliders are assembled. A total of 60 lorries is required to transport the components. Several Ju-52 aircraft and DFS 230 gliders are transferred from Propaganda-Ballonzug. Pilots are detached as well. Among them is Alfred Hillebrand, who ferries 3 gliders from Hildesheim between February 16th and February 18th, 1940. February 16th, 1940 marks the formal start of pilot training at Braunschweig. Instructors assigned include Rudi Opitz, Heiner Lange, Hans Distelmeier, Erwin Kraft, Erich Meyer, and Wilhelm Fulda. At the same time, the assault plan against Fort Eben-Emael and the Albert Canal bridges is revised. The number of participating troops increases, and the demand for trained glider pilots grows sharply. The new school at Braunschweig becomes essential. Training activity there contrasts sharply with conditions at Hildesheim. At Braunschweig, flying continues throughout the day. Each instructor works with several students. Flights rotate continuously, and night flying is also introduced. Earlier, night flying is limited. On the nights of January 6th and January 7th, 1940, several pilots, including Lange and Pilz, conduct short night flights around Hildesheim. These remain the only confirmed night flights before May 10th, 1940. After successful trials on January 11th, 1940, Command decides that the assault will begin at dawn, rather than in full darkness. Eyewitness accounts of night training differ. Some pilots receive night instruction based on skill and experience. Others, including Uppitz and Egner, never fly at night before the operation. During one experimental flight, a pilot becomes disoriented. Unable to regain altitude, he lands inside an army barracks. The sentries are completely taken by surprise. The incident reinforces the belief that small airborne forces can land undetected inside defended positions. To maintain correct formation at night, Junker 52 towing aircraft are fitted with 8 formation lights on the rudder. Metal shielding conceals the lights if a glider climbs too high. Additional shielding prevents detection from the ground. During this same period, Fritz Stammer proposes a rigid coupling system between towing aircraft and glider. The system promises greater stability than the standard 70-meter tow rope. There is insufficient time to develop the system or train crews, and the idea is abandoned. Several weeks before the Western campaign begins, additional DFS 230 gliders arrive at Ostheim packed in crates. They are transported by rail to the Kalk Nord freight yard and then moved onward by the Deutsche Reichsbahn. The wagons are loaded onto Kuhlemeyer road rollers and moved at night without lights along the Olpener Strasse. Narrow sections of the route make the transport of heavy low-loaders carrying complete railway wagons particularly difficult. A civilian observer, Herr Weiss, accompanies the transports and later recalls the discreet movement from freight yard to airfield. These deliveries represent replacement gliders rather than the main shipment. The majority of DFS 230 gliders have already arrived in Cologne by road between January 9, 1940 and January 11, 1940. Flight training continues without interruption. By March 1940, glider pilots are capable of night operations in groups of 2 or 3 aircraft. Landings are conducted at unknown airfields. Accuracy improves to within 5 to 9 meters of the intended point. During the same month, Assault Force Granite completes 2 full rehearsals, including glider launches, landings, and assaults against replica targets. Recruitment for the school remains discreet. Candidates receive personal invitations. Many are recent Luftwaffe recruits. Each is expected to hold at least a civilian sea-level glider qualification. After roughly 4 weeks of intensive training, students are considered capable of flying the DFS 230 and are replaced by a new intake. The school also retrains pilots newly assigned to Propaganda-Ballonzug. Former trainees from earlier courses, including Gherkin, Nagel, Schupp, and Winkler, refresh their DFS 230 skills. On May 9, 1940, Opitz and the instructors at Braunschweig receive immediate orders to report to Cologne. Opitz flies there aboard a Junker 52, an aircraft that later tows a glider during the assault. Otto Krutsch also receives orders. Krutsch is an experienced-powered aircraft pilot who has completed instrument training at Blindflugschule Wien-Aspern. In March 1940, he transfers to Braunschweig to train as a tow pilot. On May 3, 1940, he is ordered to report to Hildesheim with a Junker 52. On May 9, 1940, he flies Walter Koch to Köln-Ostheim. At the Cologne airfields of Ostheim and Köln-Butzweilerhof, preparations are complete. Glider start positions are marked on the grass strips. DFS 230 gliders and most pilots remain inside hangars until darkness. When Opitz arrives on the evening of May 9, 1940, he is shown his assigned glider. He receives no briefing on the plan or the target until late that night. He is told only that his task is to deliver the assault force. Once landed, responsibility will pass entirely to the troops. Most glider pilots experience the same lack of information. On the morning of May 10, 1940, Krutsch's Junker 52 drops parachute dummies over Liège and Belgian defensive positions. The aircraft then turns back toward Cologne and takes up its towing task. It is assigned to tow Rudolf Witzig's glider. That glider is forced into an emergency landing when the tow cable breaks prematurely, marking the first unforeseen incident of the operation. During the night of May 9th to May 10th, 1940, Major Rieps and his men carry out all launch preparations at Köln-Butzweilerhof. Rieps acts as startleiter for Sturmabteilung Koch and bears responsibility for the entire launch sequence of the Junker 52 towing aircraft and their attached DFS 230 gliders. His responsibilities include refueling the Junker 52s and overseeing their precise positioning at designated start points. Identification boards mark the exact location of each aircraft. The DFS 230 gliders are rolled out of the hangars and positioned behind their towing aircraft at pre-marked points. Tow cables are inspected and connected. Undercarriages are checked. Cable tension is verified. Final start signals are passed to each towing chain. All of this work is carried out in complete darkness. Only hand torches are permitted. The conditions complicate every task, yet the start sequence proceeds in a disciplined and orderly manner. Shortly after 500, 2 launch operations begin from Köln-Butzweilerhof. The first heads toward the bridge at Veldwezelt. 1 towing formation of the 3rd Schleppstaffel der Luftwaffe departs, carrying a Schleppzug of Sturmgruppe Stahl. The Fallschirmjäger are commanded by Altmann, while the towing formation is led by Nevries. The second operation from Butzweilerhof is directed at the bridge at Canne. The 4th Schleppstaffel der Luftwaffe departs with 10 Schleppzüge of Sturmgruppe Eisen. Schächter commands the Fallschirmjäger, while Steinweg commands the towing Staffel. 3 further operations begin from Köln-Ostheim. Once again, the bridge at Veldwezelt is an objective. The 3rd Schleppstaffel der Luftwaffe depart with 9 Schleppzüge of Sturmgruppe Stahl, with Altmann commanding the assault troops and Nevries leading the towing aircraft. The bridge at Frönhoven is the next objective. The 2nd Schleppstaffel der Luftwaffe departs with 11 Schleppzüge of Sturmgruppe Beton. Schacht commands the Fallschirmjäger, while Zede leads the towing formation. The final objective is Fort Eben Emael. The 1st Schleppstaffel der Luftwaffe departs with 11 Schleppzüge of Sturmgruppe Granit. The Fallschirmjäger are commanded by Witzig, and the towing Staffel is led by Schweitzer. The 11 Junker 52/3-meter aircraft of the 1st Schleppstaffel have a dual task: towing the gliders of Sturmgruppe Granit and releasing parachute dummies en route. Overall command of the glider formations lies with Walter Kieß, who serves as leader of the Lastensiegler Commando. The towing aircraft belong to 1st and 2nd Gruppe Luftlandegeschwader 1 and carry the identification prefix 4H+. Junker 52s and DFS 230s are organized in groups of 3. At intervals of roughly 20 seconds, a light signal authorizes the next group to take off. Each group climbs in a characteristic V-shaped chain formation, with 1 glider occupying the central lead position. Each Junker 52 carries a row of 8 small lights beneath the tailplane. These are set into a V-shaped metal shield facing rearwards. From the ground, the lights are invisible. From the glider cockpit, they are clearly visible, allowing the glider pilot to maintain correct height and alignment. As long as the lights remain visible, position is correct. If they disappear, the glider has either climbed too high or dropped too low. Up to the Dutch border, the aircraft are guided by 50-centimeter searchlights and moving beams operated by units under Therm and Gallert. These lights operate continuously between 4:30 and 5:40. The beacon lights remain constantly illuminated, while the searchlights are switched off for 10 seconds in every 40. All beams are angled 45 degrees to the east. The first beacon is positioned 11 kilometers from the takeoff point at the Efferen crossing. The final marker, a fixed beam searchlight, stands on the Vetschauer Berg, northwest of Aachen-Larensberg. Over Aachen, individual aircraft begin to separate, each following at least 2 marked light sectors. There are likely 4 beacon zones in total, 1 for each objective. Each zone consists of several searchlights arranged in an objective-specific pattern. These beacon zones mark the intended release point for the gliders. They lie on the German side of the Dutch border. Release is planned at an altitude of 2,600 meters, but not all towing combinations reach this height in time. As a result, several Junker 52 pilots are forced to continue briefly into Dutch airspace, an action that alerts anti-aircraft defenses. During the same morning hours, Stuka units also take off toward the west. From the field airfield at Vaan, 10 bombers depart for Belgium, attacking airfields and railway junctions. All return safely after completing their missions. At dawn, Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters of 1st Gruppe Jagdgeschwader 77 take off from Vaan. Their task is freie Jagd beyond the Belgian border, while also covering advancing panzer spearheads. After completing their mission, they land at the field airfield at Elsenborn in Belgium. After the fighters depart, 3 Junker 52 transport aircraft follow, carrying an advanced detachment to Elsenborn. Additional transport flights bring in personnel and equipment. Roughly 2 hours after landing, Erste Gruppe, Jagdgeschwader 77, regains full operational readiness. Remaining personnel and material arrive by road, while facilities, ammunition, and ground equipment at Vaan are transferred to the Zweitgruppe, Zerstörergeschwader 76. At approximately 500, Messerschmitt Bf 110 aircraft of Zweite Gruppe, Zerstörergeschwader 76, the Haifisch Gruppe, also take off. They fly their first combat missions against targets in Belgium. At the same time, 1st Gruppe Sturzkampfgeschwader 2 Immelmann departs from Vaan. Its targets are barracks near Fort Eben Emael. The group flies multiple sorties throughout the day, striking at 5:15, 8:15, 11:30, 1500, and 1900 hours as the airborne assault unfolds below. With this, the chess pieces are on the board. Sturmabteilung is ready for the assault on the 3 Albert Canal bridges and Fort Eben Emael. And that concludes today's episode. With the preparations of the glider pilots now complete, the final missing piece of Unternehmen Danzig is in place. What began as an improvised experiment has become a functioning airborne delivery system capable of placing assault troops within meters of their objectives. Civilian competition pilots, Luftwaffe aircrew, instructors, and test flyers have been fused into a single force, trained under secrecy, restriction, and constant uncertainty. By the night of May 9th, 1940, their development reaches its end. Procedures are fixed. Release points are defined. The DFS-230 is no longer an experimental aircraft, but the key instrument of the assault. When the tow cables are released, everything that has been learned since the autumn of 1939 will be tested in silence, darkness, and seconds of decision. The next episode will cover the German airborne assault on the bridge at Veldwezelt. It is one of the 3 bridges over the Albert Canal, known to the German planners by its code name Ziel Stahl, and one of the primary objectives of Unternehmen Danzig. We will follow the operation from the approach flight to the landing, and through the fight to seize the bridge intact as the opening blows of the campaign in the West are struck. To explore this subject further, including photographs, maps, original documents, and the full list of sources behind this series, visit our website at www.worldwar2-sof.com, where you'll find dedicated pages covering Fort Eben Emael and the Albert Canal crossings at Veldwezelt, Vroonhoven, and Canna. In preparing this episode, we again drew on several key works that shed light on the planning, training, and execution of Germany's first large-scale glider operation. Chief among them is the fall of Eben Emael, the daring airborne assault that sealed the fate of France by James Mrazek. We also consulted the fall of Eben Emael, Belgium, 1940, Raid 38, by Chris McNabb. Alongside these, we made extensive use of specialized research on the glider assault and the Albert Canal bridges, including the silent attack, the Fallschirmjäger capture of the bridges of Veldwezelt, Vroonhoven and Canna, 1940, by Oscar Gonzalez, Thomas Steinke, and Ian Tannehill. Together, these sources reveal how innovation, improvisation, and disciplined training transform an untested idea into a decisive operational tool, shaping the opening moments of the 1940 campaign in the West. I'm Michael Wires. Thank you for listening, and join me next time as we follow the gliders into the air and witness the opening moments of one of the most audacious airborne assaults of the Second World War. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.